lot of progress. We're not there yet, but we'll make it. And I want to echo Nate's words on this is a community project, a regional community project, and all communities in the neighborhoods are all welcome. Commissioners, I stood up here in 2015 and we presented the master plan. We told you we were going to deliver a beautiful memorial in the park, and you're going to see that the 99% of that memorial is going to be completed this year. And thank you for all your support. And a special shout out to Jeremy Miller and Stuart as well, and through for fighting public works. They've been my brothers in arms for this. Your help and support. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
And one more here. I haven't seen him in a couple years, but Siri, come on up here. It's great to see you again. Appreciate it. Thank you guys very much.
Okay. A little commercial. I own 3 bricks at the park. One for my dad, who was in the 28th Infantry Division. He was a captain. Went through the Battle of the Bulge. I think Leon Locke went through the Bulge area. So he was part of that generation too. Judy, my wife's dad, was with Patton, tank commander with Patton. He ended up there too with that same battle. I guess they sort of bailed those guys out. And then I was in the 28th Infantry Division, and I was old enough to join. My dad's out there, I said I'm coming too. So my heart goes out to it. I have to say, these are my heroes. I was at the Arizona, USS Arizona, and very somber place when you go visit. I went to Normandy and to the battlefield there. Again, very somber place to go visit. And this park is like that. We have ceremonies that take place back there. If you haven't been, please go back and see it. They've done one beautiful job. Anyhow, congratulations, guys.
Dave would probably say that the 101st didn't need bailed out by anybody.
Anyhow, really, my heart goes out to them. I really, really appreciate it. It's a great job. The next thing that we have on the agenda is the draft presentation of the Hampton Pool feasibility study. Another big deal in Hampton Township. This pool was built a long time ago, and the staff for the feasibility study is here to tell us what they found so far.
Good evening. Board of Commissioners, committee members in the audience, staff. We want to thank you for having us come and speak with you today about the pool feasibility study. We have quite a bit of information. We look forward to hearing your feedback at the end of this. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, tell us your name.
Very good. My name is Lauren Osborne, and Jeff Bartley is here with me. We're with Water's Edge Aquatic Design, and we're working in partnership and in coordination with the Hampton Township staff and community members, and that's what we're here to talk to you about today. For today's agenda, we have a few things we'd like to cover with you. We will be overviewing the existing facility and the assessment that was conducted on the existing pool. We will provide an overview of the operations of the facility, a quick review over your service area that has been identified, also an update to your public engagement process that was conducted as a part of this study, and begin very preliminary conversations about options moving forward from what we understand today. The project goals for the feasibility study, we want to review those. This was a comprehensive and is an active comprehensive study of your existing pool, and part of that was collecting feedback from users and community members. Part of this process is to understand how can we maintain and increase the cost recovery of the facility and study future options given the findings throughout the study. For the project scope, this was a true study. It is a true study, studying the existing facility, conducting an operational analysis and market analysis, and then start to provide capital improvements and associated costs for those improvements. This was not a design contract. This is not a design project. This is a true study of your facility. This time I'm going to hand over to Jeff Bartley to cover an overview of your existing facility.
Good evening. Excuse me. So instrumental or part of the process early on is to get an assessment of your existing facility, what kind of condition it's in. And this slide here shows a little bit of history on it. It was built and opened in 1973, and it's in the Hamden Park, very nice park setting. It's a very large, fairly large facility at 15,000 square foot of water. And it contains 550,000 gallons of water, if anybody's interested in that statistic. Here are some major milestones for the pool. Again, it was built in 1973, and then there have been various improvements made to it or changes throughout the years, with some of the major milestones being the addition of the water slide in the late 1980s, early 90s. And the spray ground addition in 2001, the baby pool in 2008, and then some minor improvements here and there as well. These are some pictures of the facility for those who haven't had the opportunity to be out there the last couple of years. In conducting the assessment, we look at a variety of things on the pool, and this is a list of a few of those things that we're looking at while we're analyzing the pool, and that includes looking at the basin structures, looking at potential safety issues that might be out there, studying the filtration system and the plumbing that's involved, the water treatment systems that are there, analyzing pool deck, the condition of the various features and amenities like the water slides, checking out the restrooms, comparing it to current codes, and then checking the site characteristics such as parking. A few key bits of information: the main pool structure, the largest tank out there, was the structure that was built in the 1970s. We find it to be in fairly good condition, although since it was built in the 1970s, its perimeter on it is fairly dated at this point. It's different than what you might see at, say, other modern aquatic centers. And again, the piping, as far as we know, is original to the 1970s construction. So it's older. We don't have any reason to believe the piping's been breached or is in terrible condition, but it is fairly old at this point. And then the filter system is that bottom left picture, and it is what's called a diatomaceous earth filter. It's a very effective filter system, but very labor intensive for your staff. The water slide, again, added in 1990s. And that was a popular addition to the pool. There have been improvements made to it, such as recoating it a few years ago. Right now, the tower structure is in need of work. Coatings on it and some bracing to support various parts of that structure. Then the spray ground, built in 2001. Again, it's in fair condition, but at this point, the features have been there for quite a while, and they're somewhat dated. There are a few minor maintenance issues related to the spray ground, especially with the pump end that's operating the spray features. And the baby pool was the newest addition in 2007, and it's in the best physical condition, obviously being the newest portion, but again, it has some minor maintenance issues, nothing significant though. And the buildings, the entry building is newer than the main building. There was renovation done on the main bathhouse. We find it to be in fair condition, although there are some items, things of issue that note, particularly with the floor drainage. And there are issues with floor getting wet and the staff adding fans to keep the area ventilated and try to keep it clean and fresh. It also lacks, there have been interest in family change room, and the facility lacks a private family change room. And then the last thing, the site is a fantastic asset for the facility. It's a great site. There's ample parking. It's in a very pleasant setting, and you receive a lot of positive comments from your constituents about the setting in that park. There is room to expand, and another positive asset is it's relatively easy access from the highway. So overall, we find the facility to be in good condition with needing some improvements made to it.
One of the major reasons this feasibility study was initiated was the identification that attendance and overall cost recovery has started to shift, and it's been starting to decrease over time. So when we hear a story like that, we begin with a facility assessment because it paints a picture, it begins to paint the picture and sets the groundwork. The next step to this story is understanding how are people utilizing this? And that's why we take a look at the existing operations. And what we mean by that are use patterns, revenues, expenditures, those types of data points. So for today, we want to keep it a little more high level and begin at attendance. So what we're looking at is over the last 10 years, historical data to tell us, basically give us a trend line. What is going on with attendance? And over the last 10 years, since 2010 through 2019, there has been a steady decrease of attendance during that period of time. And we want to understand where and why is this happening. So we take attendance numbers and we want to break them down into different categories. The first category is, what is the overall decrease? Over that 10-year period, it was a 36% decrease in total attendance, and that averages to about 4% annually. The next step is, what kinds of admissions do we have? And you have two predominant admission types, memberships and paying the daily fee or the daily rate. There's been a 47% decrease in membership attendance over that 10-year period, average 6% annually, with another decrease, although not nearly as significant as memberships, but also a decrease on your daily admissions as well by 5% or 1% on average annually. So this begins, again, we take the first step of the facility assessment and we're looking at attendance and starting to pair them up. From there, we're looking at the budget, revenues and expenditures to get to an overall cost recovery. Your facility overall does well, and I'll give a summary in that in just a minute, but it has varied throughout the years, and that's what this graph is indicating, that overall your cost recovery has been doing well. So for your facility, your pool, over the last 10 years, you're anywhere between the upper 80s and above 100% cost recovery. We see that and we're intrigued. You know, what's going on with that? Because typical outdoor pools are not operating at that kind of level. So that's a tremendous level, and it speaks to business practice, and it speaks to management, and it speaks to how this facility is running and being operated. So it's atypical for an outdoor facility like yours to operate at 100% or more cost recovery, which you have done several years here. Typical outdoor pools nationwide, their goal is about 80%. And that 80% typically does not include debt service or debt recovery. And that is something unique to your facility and your business model, is that you're an enterprise fund. And that means all expenditures are attributed directly back to the facility and not touching the general fund. So when we know that typically 80% is standard for facilities like yours, and you're running above that, and you're including debt service and capital improvement, that does speak highly. But again, we do have a decreasing cost recovery, and we also have decreasing attendance, so we're trying to get ahead of the game to understand why and what can we do to kind of stop that decrease moving forward. To give you a breakdown of your revenue, over that 10-year period, revenue has decreased by about 4%, on average 1% annually. And what does that equate to? What we're trying to understand is, in what category, where should our attention be? Is there something that stands out in relation to how people utilize your facility? So when we break that down, we're looking at memberships, daily admission, so people paying that daily rate, and program revenue. Those are your top three categories for generating revenue. Your membership category has decreased by 25%. Your daily admission has actually increased by 28%, and a tremendous increase on your program level. Those are things like swimming lessons, aqua fitness, those types of activities. Over that 10-year period has grown by 151%. That is really great. So again, this starts to paint a picture of how people are utilizing the facility and maybe how that has changed over time, to start to give us an idea of what might people be looking for. So the current current situation with your facility. This is a 1970s construction with that similar type of character and feel, so your facility is what we would expect. There's been relatively few changes or modifications since the 2000s. It's 2019, so we're approaching, almost that 20-year mark before something last occurred at the facility. We know that attendance is decreasing, we know pool memberships are decreasing, and we know that there are competitive, more updated aquatic centers in your market area. So this is what we know right now. So what is your service area? What might you be competing with? Where might people be going? That's the next step. We pulled competitive facilities, so facilities that we felt would your users or your community may be visiting instead of yours or in addition to yours, and there are 14 of those facilities within a 10-mile radius of the pool. A few examples I wanted to point out are Hershey Park, Cyrett Pool, Mechanicsburg, Boiling Springs, Carlisle, and Lemoyne. Of interest to us are when we see these newer facilities. These were identified throughout the public engagement process that people are attending and going to these facilities, and these are of interest to our team because of the types of features they have in comparison to yours. It was also of interest to know how many residential pools are within your community. And again, this graph right here is indicating that since 2018, so over the last 12 years, there have been 303 residential pool permits pulled, and these are pools going at a residence, so it's someone's home, and that averages out to about 25 a year. This is a part of the conversation. It is not the icing on the cake by any means, but it is an element of the conversation when we think about how our people's aquatic needs are being met, how they're being met. A part of this process, it was identified early that public engagement was a critical and important element to this facility. Without users, without feedback from the people utilizing it, we won't be able to serve you quite appropriately. So we did do a fairly lengthy public engagement process, and we've done two things so far, and today adds onto that layer. The first one is an online survey, and the second one are going to be the town hall and committee meetings that occurred earlier in September. At that town hall meeting on September 10th, we did invite the public to visit with us in this room. We gave a project update at that point and invited public comment at that point. And the online survey was available August 6th through September 15th on the city's website, and I believe was sent to the community via a multitude of avenues to educate about that survey. At this time, I do want to say that if anybody from the general public, if you have not provided comment and you would like to provide comment, the survey is closed, but we are still accepting comment. So in the back corner, there's a table. You can see the tripod back there. I have my business card and also comment cards for anybody. If you would like to complete a survey and you've not done so yet, and you have that preference, please shoot me an email and I can get you paperwork to be able to do that. We will not be reopening the electronic survey, but it's the exact same question and layout as the online survey, and we will include that in our study. So before I forgot, I did want to invite the general community that you do have that opportunity. So real briefly, for the committee and town hall meetings that happened earlier in September, there were several different groups represented at that time. We had general swimming and open swim community members, the duck swim team, swim lessons, the deep water variety class, which is an aqua fitness class, and several others, water walking, facility staff, lap swimming, were all in attendance between one of those two meetings. And there's some things that are going well that were identified at those meetings, and so we want to review those. Overall, there's a sense that this facility is welcoming and it's community-based. The aesthetic is great, people support that. The grass and tree area that you have is unique and it is special to your users. The facility size, the pool size is appreciated, people like that. The shallow water and your water features, those are very popular. People really enjoy that. Lap swimming and water walking during those meetings did come up as high interest activities, and that's something for us to remember. On the flip side, there were some challenges that were identified at those meetings. The shallow water space has become crowded, specifically if you're familiar with the facility in the main lap pool, the sides closest to the baby pool in the splash pad, it's a little bit shallower there. Those get very, very crowded. The dry playground is at the end of its lifespan. We have taken a look at that, and it's if you've not seen it, you'd probably agree it's lived its life. The facility is in need of more shade, and we would agree with that. For those who are competitive swimmers or swim team members, that long course or that 50-meter pool that you have, there's a need and a desire for more flexibility to offer short course or 25 yards for them, because the 50 can be a fairly long run, especially for younger swimmers. And there's also operational considerations for patron use that were identified at this time. For the online survey, again, it was open a little over a month. And we received 443 responses. We were happy with that number. Our goal was 300, which is 1% of your population, and we exceeded that. To understand who participated in that survey, the most frequently answered of these categories, I'd like to review real quick. 66% of the respondents came from or identified as residents of the Hamden Township. The majority marked being between the ages of 25 and 44. Having more than 4 people in the household, having older children and younger children. And when we pair all this together, what this says is there was good representation from households who have kids or families. That is what this is communicating to us right now. Not to the exclusion of anyone else, but again, as a whole, you had a pretty good turnout from households with families. The overall satisfaction of the Hamden pool ranked fairly well. 49% with overall satisfaction ranked it good, and 30% ranked it excellent. So that's pretty high ranking. It's almost 80% of people feeling good or more or better about that. Would people recommend the Hamden pool? If people want to come here and they would recommend it, that's a great thing. 76% are reporting that yes. They would recommend general swimming or open swimming at the Hamden pool. When people are choosing where they want to swim, location is the number